guys, what is going on? Blossoms back. Welcome back to another episode of Top Drives, and we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We've had about a week or two of APR Part 2, and here's Part 1 of Overrated or Overpowered of APR Part 2. Now, this might sound a little bit confusing, but in APR Part 1, we only had one part for the series. But for APR Part 2, we're gonna have more than one part. I'll have a second part and possibly even a third. And as always, guys, for every episode in this series, and this is, coming back by popular demand. A lot of you guys want this series to come back, so I really appreciate the support. These videos take a long time to make, and I can really honestly make them on my rest days because that's the only time I can actually sit down and hunker up and, hunker down, I guess, not hunker up, but hunker down and get all the information available for us. So I really hope that you guys enjoy it, and it seems like you do, so I really appreciate that. And as always, guys, for these videos, I do turn off my camera so you can see the entire screen. That being said, though, since I have acquired a new computer, not a new computer, what am I talking about? A new webcam, I can do this now. So, what's good? So, yeah, it will go over from my face, and if I click 9, we should be back on the main screen here with my overrated, overpowered screen. So, without further ado, guys, but yeah, every time I click 8 or 9, though, the timer is just gonna pop up. So if I do like 8 again, and then I do 9 again, at least that way I know what screen I'm on, I guess. But yeah, as always, guys, speaking about 9, with every series I do for Overpowered and Overrated, I'm always gonna cover 9 cars. 9 cars every single time. I think that works out nice as well. Anyway, especially if your name is Corn, feel free to sit back, relax, have a nice little cup of tea, milk, drink, whatever it is, and enjoy this Nissan episode. We're going to start off nice and simple, okay? The Nissan Sorus Jr. Now, as always, guys, I didn't write down a disclaimer this time, but there is always a disclaimer for you guys to remember, okay? The times and information that I'm going to present in today's episode is the most accurate information that I have given to me at the time of recording, okay? So there are some, okay, to be fair, there's only one car I think in today's episode where I think is a little underrepresented, like there are not a lot of times for a certain car, but for everything else, I think it's pretty decently represented already, going about 2 weeks into the update, so... Anyway, Nissan Sorus Jr. kicks us off. I mean, this one's a little bit of a no-brainer, right? I think a lot of people know how good this car is already. This thing is absolutely ridiculous, right? You just gotta know where to put it on. So, first of all, I'm comparing the Nissan Sorus Jr. against track specialists that are ultra rare. So things like the Lotus 340R, the Enus Z10, the Lotuses, the Suzuki Ignis, if you even want to consider that a specialist anymore, and even the Ginetta G40 GT5. Ginetta G40 GT5 was a pretty decent G-Force car back in the day, but as you can see in today's comparison, the Nissan Sorus Jr. is the best for car park, G-Force rolling, slalom, and slalom rolling, to the point where, guys, we can't really compare the Nissan Sorus Jr. to an ultra rare. It's not very fair anymore. So let's go one further. Let's compare the Nissan Sorus Jr. to epics and legendaries. This is one of those moments where I can just see like a new player be like, oh my god, what? The Nissan Sorus is so OP. Yeah, it is. And I don't think it comes as a surprise to anyone that has played, the update for about a week now, but the Nissan Sorus is absolutely ridiculous. You just have to know where you want to put it. As you can see, against the ultra rares, it's more dominant, right? It's the best in 4 track sets, but when you put it up against the epic and the legendaries, it's only the best in 1 on that slalom test. And once again, guys, as you can see over here, I did not show the times for the KTM Expo, the Exige, and the Radical 1100. And the reason for that is because these 3 cars are going to be better than the Nissan Sorus Jr. on a slalom. But I still want to highlight that the Sorus is better on the slalom compared to things like the Ginetta G56 GTA, the Ford Mustang GT4, a maxed out campaign McLaren 12C, and even the 12C GT3 version, which I think is absolutely insane. So yeah, Nissan Sorus Jr. is a no-brainer. This car needs no introduction, right? It is Blossom Choice material. It is ridiculous. As long as you put this car in the right places, it's going to get you value. Now, moving on to a car which I feel like not a lot of people know is actually pretty good. I think a lot of people knew that the Nissan Sorus is fantastic, but did you guys know how much of a sleeper the Nissan Sylvia convertible was? Because this thing honestly came out of left field. I did not expect this car to be this good, but it actually is quite a surprising feature in the update. So let us begin. So this is going to be filtered by Japanese low ground clearance plus the Honda CRX. The Honda CRX is the only car in this comparison that's medium ground clearance. I just felt that it was worthy to be in the comparison, but it is losing everywhere, so unfortunate stuff. Look at this. I mean, we all know that when it comes to not just Japanese on uncommons, but uncommons in general, the Mazda Roadster NRA is an incredibly dominant car. So for the Sylvia to come in and take some wins on Forest Road and Canyon Tour, in my opinion, is actually quite respectable. Also, it's like, I think the second best car for the Japanese cars for twisty circuit and twisty circuit rolling, only losing to the Mazda Roadster NRA. So although the Nissan Sylvia is RQ28, it's beating the RQ29 Suzuki Cappuccino on tracks that's like the twisty circuit rolling, canyon, and forest. So that is all very impressive, but it gets even better because when I go up against the hybrid tracks, as you can see, it remains the best on Forest Road, but also it's the best for city sprints, Monaco hairpin, and Monaco streets, which is all very impressive stuff, beating things like the Mazda Roadster and the Suzuki Cappuccino. The funny thing is, where the Cappuccino seems to... Well, I was going to say where the Cappuccino beats the Mazda is where the Nissan will beat the Cappuccino, but that isn't really correct, to be honest. Look at the times over here. It's become a second place car to a third place car in these track sets. So the Sylvia, honestly, very, very impressive. Also, that city street time on the Mitsubishi Starion Turbo is a 26. That's a little bit of an outlier and something to remember if you want to save a lot more RQ, I guess. But anyway, a lot more RQ in terms of like 2 RQ, but you get what I mean. And then moving on, we've got the uncommon low ground clearance performance. So this is a general sense now, not just Japanese cars. And I'm comparing this on, once again, things like the Monaco hairpin, city street, forest road. We saw that the Sylvia was already pretty good against Japanese cars. So when I put in, other general cars like the Citroen C Air Dream and the Lotus Europa from other countries, you can see that the Sylvia still remains, at the top dog for some of these track sets, which I think is very impressive, actually. And then over here, I'm putting it up against APR uncommon cars, so only within its own update of Asia Pacific Revival, and the Nissan Sylvia convertible trades blows to the Suzuki Cappuccino, which I think is very impressive. Now, when you go to like the vanilla twisty stuff, like your G-Force and Slalom, which isn't represented in the screenshot, the Cappuccino is going to be probably the better car. I mean, it is a better car, that's why I'm not showing it. But the Nissan Sylvia convertible, still very, very useful. You just gotta know where to put it on Monaco hairpin, city sprint, forest road, Monaco streets, the Tokyo tracks, Tokyo loop. You gotta know what you're coming up against. But, it's a pretty dependable car. It's a good uncommon to use for city sprint, Monaco hairpin, forest road, across the board, as we saw in that general comparison over here in the screenshot as well. So, yeah, here's another one. Okay, so there you go. Like I said, for your, vanilla twisty stuff like your car park and your G-Force, your G-Force test, the Suzuki Cappuccino is going to be the best one. But the Sylvia is still good on twisty circuits, fast circuit, and canyon tour. So they do trade blows. I thought I didn't have a screenshot of this, but I did. So go me for going the extra mile, I guess. But overall, I mean, Nissan Sylvia convertible S13. I mean, did anyone expect this car to be this good? Because I didn't. But it's a nice little surprise, so definitely an uncommon to look out for. It's a great little uncommon for hybrid track sets, and a great one for APR, and a great one for Japan as well. So, in my opinion, it's not Blossom Choice, but it's definitely a good car. I don't think it's the level of the Mazda NRA just yet, but it definitely is a very good uncommon to use. It's just that the track sets that it's, the best on, like Forest Road and Canyon Tour, are not the vanilla track sets. They're not the most common. You're still going to see more G-Forces and slaloms and stuff like that. That being said, though, you gotta know where to use this, but this thing will not let you down if you put it in the right places. Now, moving on, the Nissan Ultima VC Turbo. Now, this was more of a me thing. I really wanted to see how good this car actually was. I don't think anyone out there is actually thinking how good this car actually is, but I actually see potential in it. And the main reason for that is because of clubs. So front-wheel drive Ultra Standard, it is exactly what I expected it to be. It's the second best car that you can use. The best front-wheel drive Ultra, not even the best front-wheel drive Ultra Standard, but the best front-wheel drive standard tire car in the game, full stop, not even adding in rarities, is the Acura RSX Type S. And, for the longest time, the TLX and the RSX, these two, the 51 and 50, were the best. And then obviously the RSX got bumped up, it got buffed, and now it's the best one there. And now we have the Ultima that kind of fits in between. So the Ultima VC Turbo has become the second best front-wheel drive standard tire car in the game for the twisty scenarios. Also, it has like decent MRA. It's like 70 MRA. So it's actually pretty damn good on the fast circuit, regardless, even if I added it in the Acura RSX times or not. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to the other tracks, it's like seriously small, medium, medium, car park, G-force, hairpin, karting circuit, slalom, it's going to lose to the Acura RSX, but it is second best. And one thing to take note is that the 233 version actually beats the 323 version on city streets medium. So if you want to be the king of, you know, the RQ54, very niche, RQ54, I guess, you know, Nissan front-wheel drive ultra standard niche, and you want to be the king of city streets medium, then 233 is probably the way to go. But then obviously 323 beats it everywhere else. So, you know, this is literally, the 233 version is literally a one map pony. And again, it's actually technically second place because I took away the times of the Acura RSX. That being said though, still a very good niche to follow. You know, if you don't have the Acura, go for the Nissan Ultima. That's a good substitute. Moving on to Nissan standard tires plus the Pulsar. Not a lot to go by, right? When it comes to Nissan standard tires, it's just the Nissan Rogue and the Ultima. And then the Pulsar, it doesn't have standard tires, but it has four-wheel drive. So I wanted to consider it for the comparison. Again, 233, I guess if you want to have a Nissan Ultra Rare, you know, niche on lock for standard tires, you're gonna need the Nissan Ultima VC Turbo, huh? Because it's the best car for city streets medium. So I guess if you're someone like Korn that just wants every single, you know, nook and cranny of that Nissan niche, you know, sorted out for, a 233 Ultima might be viable for that one track. Which I think is crazy. But yeah, that's one thing to consider. Also, APR standards. Again, it doesn't really shine anywhere besides fast circuit because, like I said earlier, the Ultima has 70 MRA, which is pretty decent for a car of its nature, right? Being a standard tire car. So yeah, it's the best in fast circuit. It'll beat the Infiniti QX55, so that's something to think about. You know, if you're in that APR challenge, the APR trials, and you encounter a fast circuit wet, you might want to save some RQ and use yourself a Nissan Ultima as opposed to the Suzuki EVX Concept or even the Infiniti QX55. But overall, you know, in my opinion, I think this is just an average, it's just an average car, man. It's not great, it's not bad. You know, it's more of a cash cow to use in clubs, and that's really about it. I don't think you're going to be using this in the main game too much, like in multiplayer events or anything like that. But I guess early on into APR Part 2, you're probably going to be using this car in trials a little bit, and you're going to be using it consistently in clubs, so that's pretty decent as well. Now, moving on to the next car that I do want to compare. I think my thing is frozen. Hello, there we go. Why was the keys frozen there for a second? It's the Nissan Zismo RZ34. This one was a little bit of a disappointment. I actually maxed out the handling for the final for the Audi RSQ8, and I ended up not even using it. I just decided, you know what, two Nissan Sorus Juniors was better than the Nissan Zismo. So yeah, this car turned out to be a little bit of a disappointment. So yeah, performance, slick tire, APR cars. As you can see, the Nissan Zismo is good on those hybrid track sets like Hairpin and Canyon, Laguna Seca, and Fast Circuit, but obviously all those track sets were not included. Besides Fast Circuit, in the most recent Tri-Series, it was mostly car park and G-force where the Nissan Sorus Jr. was the car to get, right? But yeah, I mean, again, just showcasing the Nissan Sorus Jr. hitting above its weight, being the best car for the G-force rolling and car park is really quite insane, and slalom isn't even represented in this screenshot. But the Nissan Zismo is able to trade some blows with the Honda Integra Type R on those hybrid track sets. And then over here as well, as you can see, the Integra kind of flies away, but the Nismo specializes in City Sprint, Tokyo Off-Ramp, Tokyo Overpass, the things that utilizes MRA and lower 0 to 60 a little bit more, the track sets that utilizes handling just a little bit less, but nothing to write home about, honestly, here. Nissan Zismo, again, I'm putting it up against a comparison within its own RQ neighborhood, within cars just like it, RQ 65 to 67, low ground clearance, performance tires, all-rounders, right? So no twisty specialists. I'm not comparing the 66 Nissan Zismo to a 66 or even a 65 Lotus, right? So I'm comparing it against what I think are hybrids like the Mercedes C112, the Ford Mustang SVT, Lotus Evora S, Porsche Boxster Spyder, things like that. And even then, the Nismo only shines on the hairpin. That's about it. You know, the Bufori CS prototype, it's RQ65. It's the cheapest car that you can use in this comparison, but it's the best car that you can use, which I think is pretty crazy. So yeah, nothing to write home about. Again, same one, but different track sets. The Nissan Zismo shines a little bit more here on Monaco Streets long, City Sprint, Forest Road, but then again, no Bufori times here, so we don't know. The Bufori might be a better car. I think it will be on things like City Slalom and Monaco G-Force Test, and maybe even Monaco Hairpin. I can foresee the Nismo Z just being the best on City Sprint. And honestly, it's very similar in times compared to the Ford Mustang Mach 1. They have the same 0 to 60 in handling, if I remember correctly. But yeah, again, at the end of the day, this is just a run-of-the-mill RQ66 Epic. I don't think it's terrible, but I don't think it's good. It's very RQ66-y. So whatever you like to rank RQ66 as, it's just a very, you know, rightly rated car, and I just think it's slightly under average, honestly. And the main reason why I'm not putting it as average is because who's actually going to max an RQ66? Who's ever going to prioritize an RQ66? Unless you really love this car, or it was truly needed for a tri-series, I just can't see anyone maxing this just because it's an RQ66. If you have 15 Ultras lying around, 9 out of 10 people will be going for the RQ79 or the 78 over a 66 if they had 2 cars to choose from of those RQ. So yeah, it's slightly above average in the hairpin road within its RQ. And I guess on hybrid track sets against like APR epic cars, it might be the best option to use, but that's really just about it. This car isn't going to be breaking any records in my opinion. Moving on now is the Nissan R383. This one, though, is ridiculous, okay? I want to call this car like the Japanese 962C. It's not as good as a 962C, but it comes pretty close. So it is the best non-prized Japanese dragster now, if I remember correctly. Or at least it is definitely one of the best dragsters from 1920 to 1974. Now, why is the number so random? Why am I only showing you cars between 1920 and 1974? Because of that freaking like daily event. You know, that one daily event where it's like 1969 to 1974. We get it twice a month. And honestly, I value that. You know, that is repetitiveness. That is an event that comes back again and again and again. And if you have a Nissan R383 for that daily, I think you're going to be a king of that daily, or at least 20% king. You need 4 other cars to back it up. But it's a great start to have a Nissan R383 for this daily. It's going to beat cars like the R382. The Porsche 917, the Tipo, the Serve. I mean, it's just a really good car for the drags. It's got a low 0 to 60 and the MRI to back it up. The only place it's losing right now is the test bowl, you know, against the Audi Type C. But, you know, we already knew that. The Auto Union is crazy. Against, you know, regular drags. So these are the other kinds of drags, I think. Oh, no, what am I comparing this against? What's the difference here? Oh, wait, no, I'm just showing different times. So this is a 233 comparison. This is a 111 comparison, just so I could get more times out of the R383. Again, still dominant. Still dominant. It is the premier dragster to use, especially for that 1969 to 1974 daily, right? It's also a 1970s car, so it's not pre-70s, but it's close to it, I guess. It's 1970 and, you know, years before it, I guess. I don't know if they have events like that, though. Now, Japan General, as you can see, the R383 is a fantastic dragster. It's second best, only behind the Mazda 787B. You take the 787B away, and the Nissan R383 becomes the best dragster for the quarter mile, half mile, 0 to 120, 150 hill climb. And look at the cars that it's going up against. It's facing an RQ100 Mazda RT24P prize car. It's beating the Nissan R85V prize car. It's beating the GTR GT500, the LM Nismo. It's really quite crazy. And in but in the next episode where we cover the GTP, I'll talk about this car too, because this thing is fantastic for long range drags. Look at it being the best car for 1 mile drag and 0 to 170 and test bowl. 2 very important cars here. But we're talking about the R383. So honestly, I'm going to say that this is a really good car. Like I said, it's like a Japanese 962C in my opinion. It is a dragster. Honestly speaking, guys, if I ever pulled this car, I'm drag specking it. I mean, if I had to max it out, it is a drag spec car. So if you own this and you're thinking to yourself, oh, how should I upgrade this? I would say drag spec it. It's got the MRA, it's got the top speed, low 0 to 60. I mean, if these times didn't convince you to drag spec it already, then I don't know what will. It's a great car, definitely just shy of Blossom Choice, and it has that like 70s niche locked down as well as the best car that you can get. Anyway, moving on, the Nissan XTrail Crawler concept. This is the joint best off-road epic of APR. This and the Hyundai like Grandeur or whatever from part 1, or Santa Fe, one or the other. But yeah, I think it's Santa Fe. Yes, Grandeur is a saloon, isn't it? But yeah, this is the joint best off-road car from APR part 1 and 2. So how well does it perform? Well, not well. Okay, so again, this is just a comparison between Asia Pacific Revival against off-road and all-surface tire cars. It does beat the Santa Fe, so that's a good start. On dirt, it's the better car through and through. On sand, it's the better car. On snow, they kind of trade blows, right? I guess Santa Fe better on the hairpin road and frozen lake, but overall, it's like the best car that you can get. That being said, you know, there is the Suzuki SX4 that is a legendary, so I should say that it's the best epic off-roader that you can get from APR. So, decent start, I guess, but the moment you put it in a general sense, not even a general sense, but just like Japan only, it suffers. It really suffers. It loses to all the Mitsubishis and the Mazdas and even the Nissan Bluebird. Now that's a specific problem in my opinion, because if I just ripped away Japan and I just called it a Japanese off-road epic event, the XTrail wouldn't be the best option because you would still use the Bluebird anyway. I think the only way I consider Nissan XTrail crawler being, you know, useful is if it was a Nissan off-road event and there was motocross. If not, you would want to use the Bluebird anyway. Again, it is also considered a concept, so I wanted to compare it against other off-road tire concept cars, and unfortunately it doesn't win anything, right? It loses to the XC70, which is a fantastic one to use. Even the Hyundai Moab, which I think is a little overrated, to be honest. I think it should be a 78. Loses the Porsche Cayman. So unfortunately, the XTrail, not that great in my opinion. I think it's a little overrated. 74, a little bit too high. I think that this should be like a 73. And maybe that Hyundai Santa Fe be a 72 even. So they can go down in RQ in my opinion. Its strengths include off-road APR and Nissan Motocross, and that's about it. Moving on now with the Nissan Sentra Nismo. Now, Corn, I know you're watching. I need your Nissan expertise on this one. In the Nissan community, do you guys actually consider this a real Nismo? I mean, like, technically, it's a real Nismo, right? Because Nismo is in the name. But, you know, when I looked at this car, I was, like, comparing it to, like, you know, in the Mercedes community, when you look at the Mercedes A-Class A35, you know, when you look at an A35, usually people are going to be like, that's a fake AMG. It's technically a real AMG, but it's a freaking A35. Like, you want to get an AMG, at least get an A45. You know what I mean? So, you know, I feel like Mercedes, at least in the modern day, they kind of like to, an AMG, they kind of like to float the AMG name around a little bit too often. I think it was the same thing with like the GLC 35 or something like that. Is it GLC 53? I can't remember. I think it's 53. But yeah, is this a real Nismo? You know, for a Nissan enthusiast, someone answer that, please. Is this a real Nismo? I look at this, I'm just like, I can't take it seriously. In real life, I guess, this being a real Nismo, but in the game, it's actually pretty decent. So let's talk about it. Nissan Sentra Nismo B17 against front-wheel drive, roll drive, medium ground clearance, super airs, plus the RCZ. RCZ is also medium ground clearance, but it's four-wheel drive. It's the only four-wheel drive car in this comparison, and I put it in here because, you know, it is pretty good, and it is the best on G4. So, but anyway, the Sentra is great. Absolutely great. It's going up against cars that are, you know, higher in RQ. 41. There's even a 42 in there. The Alpha 156. To be honest, the Sentra does lose the most 42s, but I wanted to find a 42 that it will beat, and there actually is a 42 that it beats, and it's the Alpha 156, which definitely is just, I think it's way too high in RQ. It should be a 41 as well. But the Nissan Sentra Nismo, pretty cool stuff. It's the best car for city street, small and medium, which are the track sets that you wanted to win at. The G4 is two circuit rolling. That's all bonuses. As long as the Sentra Nismo wins city street, small and medium, I'm happy, because that's what I want it to win, okay? Now, moving on here, APR Super Air Medium. Again, it's not a lot of competition, right? It's the only RQ40 within the niche. It beats its 41 and 42 counterparts, and it loses to the 43. Fair enough, it should lose to the 43, but it still beats the 43 on G4's twisty circuit and twisty circuit rolling. So, honestly, I can foresee the Sentra Nismo being a great little bargain in the APR trials, and overall, it's just a great little medium ground clearance bargain as a whole. The Nissan Sentra Nismo, in my opinion, reminds me of the Dodge Avenger at the beginning of American Frontier. Remember the Avenger that's like 5089 when you max it out? That used to be RQ4041. Then Hutch realized, wait a minute, that car is ridiculous, and now the car is RQ46 or something like that. Well, I think that the Nissan Sentra Nismo is like the reincarnation of that Dodge Avenger, honestly. A 0 to 60 is a lot worse, but then again, handling's about the same, compared to the Dodge Avenger, that is. But it's a good car for an RQ40 now, I would say. And I would say that it's slightly above average. It's a great little bargain, you know, if you want to save some RQ. on a city street medium or small, or I guess even on a G4s or a twisty circuit, if it's a medium ground clearance only event, the Nissan Sentra Nismo is going to be a great option for you in my opinion. So it's a great bargain. A little above average, good car. Moving on now, this one, oh my goodness, I spent a lot of time doing research on this car because nobody had the times for this. Remember at the start when I said that, you know, most cars are pretty well represented on Top Drive's records besides one? This was the one that wasn't really well represented. So yeah, bear with me guys. Nissan Titan XD Pro 4X. I see potential in this car, and that's why I'm putting it in for today's video, because I think it's going to be a pretty decent dragster for the Japanese off-road meta. And I'm right. So here's the thing. No one had the times for a 332 Titan XD Pro. But I own one drag spec, so I had to put in all the times, and I mean it paid off because it is, I guess, against Japanese all-surface tire cars. Now I filtered all Japanese all-surface tire cars via the lowest 0 to 60, so these were the cars that showed up. So the Murano Hybrid and the Titan seem to be the best one to go for. The Murano, honestly, quite impressive as well, because that's 5 RQ cheaper than its competition. It's the best for 0 to 100, 1 mile hill climb test bowl. But then you got the Titan that's the best for quarter mile, half mile hill climb, quarter mile, half mile. What I realized is that you don't want to put the Titan on a 1 mile, but anything less than a 1 mile, like a quarter mile or a half mile or a hill climb that isn't dirt dry, it's going to be pretty decent on, right? So I think it's a great little dragster. But that being said, it's also a pretty decent 323 car. This came to my surprise. I don't own the Titan 323. Whoever owns it didn't want to put in a lot of times, but from what we do know, I'm genuinely quite surprised because this thing only has like 74 or 76 handling, something like that. It's not that great, but it's able to beat things like the L200s on the hairpin and twisty circuit, or at least draw, right? I think it's actually quite impressive that it's even able to trade blows with some of these other pickup trucks, because in my opinion, the Titan XD Pro 4X is a Japanese off-road rare dragster. But the fact that if you 323 it and it's still somewhat competitive on some track sets against its own competition within its own country niche, I think that's pretty impressive, honestly. Something to consider. The Titan might be a car that you want to collect two of, 1323 and 1332. Here we go. APR all surface now. It looks like it's the best, honestly. It's beating things like the Suzuki Jimny 5-door Titan. At the same time, I don't think this Titan has a lot of competition within its own update, so it is going to be a pretty good car regardless of how you upgrade it, I guess. 332 would be dominant for APR drags, 323 dominant for APR twisty, you know, within that rarity. But then again, take it with a pinch of salt, not a lot of times for these cars, so. And I don't have a 323 Titan. I only have one, and it's drag spec, so I couldn't add my own times to help the infograph over here as well. But overall, I think that this car is slightly above average. It might go up, you know, when more times show up on Top Drive's records, or it might go down if it underperforms. But hey, you know, I think that this car is a little bit of a sleeper. You know, it's not a good dragster outside of Japan. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to overhype the car, and that's why I'm not putting it in Blossom Choice or anything. It's not going to be a great dragster for, you know, off-road rare drags outside of Japan. It's not going to be a great twisty hairpin or even twisty circuit off-road car for anything outside of Japan. You got to know where to use the Titan. If you know you're in an event, and again we're going back to clubs here, if it's like Road Less Taken or Desert Sands and it's Japan 5 times and the RQ limit is low, then the Titan XD is going to be a great car to use. You got to know where to use it, but it is a bit of a sleeper. It wins more than I expected it to, so that's pretty cool. We got one more car to go now. It's the Nissan GTR R35. Here's a quick little one, honestly. I just wanted to do it because it was an R35, and I think R35s are cool. GTRs are cool as well, but they're not very good. You know, compared up against 4-wheel drive RQ neighborhood cars, you know, around 84 to 82, the Nissan Leaf Nismo is the best car. And, you know, bada bing, bada boom. It's also a Nissan, so I don't need to compare it against Nissans anymore. You can already see that the GTR is going to lose to the Leaf Nismo. That being said, it's decent on a hairpin, loses to the other GTR in twisty circuit and twisty circuit rolling, but it's a pretty decent car on the hairpin. So it's kind of like that Nissan Z34 that we saw earlier, where, you know, it's definitely not overrated, but definitely not overpowered either. It's just very of its RQ, and it stands out in hairpin, and that's about it. A small little niche, I guess, for the GTR R35 is when it comes to Asia Pacific Revival 4-wheel drive in the wet. Probably one of the best cars for you to use. It will beat the gray Hyundai Ioniq, as long as you put it on things like karting and twisty circuit and even twisty road, which I think is a little bit of a surprise. I thought that the Ioniq would win on the twisty road at least, but it doesn't. But it does win on the super twisty wet stuff like slalom and G-force and car park and stuff like that. But yeah, the GTR, I mean, the only place I can see people using the GTR R35 is like APR trials, or, you know, a tri-series where, you know, it's APR based, but they're wet track sets, like a wet twisty circuit or a wet fast circuit. Then the R35 would be useful because it will be better than the Nissan Juke R. It will be better than, you know, these Hyundais because they have off-road or slick tires or whatever the hell they have. And it's going to be better than the Hyundai Ioniq 5 as well. So I can actually see the next final, honestly, having like a wet twisty circuit or a wet fast circuit. And then probably has requirements that includes the GTR, making it one of the key cars to use. So we'll see. Time will tell. But overall, it's not a good car, okay? It's just, you know, just another RQ84 Legendary. It's got a low 0 to 60, it's decent on a hairpin, and you can use it for APR wet tracks that are not too twisty, but that's about it. But anyway, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video of Overrated or Overpowered. Stay tuned, there will be a part 2. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Remember, stay safe, wash your hands, and blossom out. Peace.
Bro, this song just makes me so happy.
Me too.
Imagine being Asian in the 50s, looking nifty, leather jacket, looking sleek, look like Presley, look so deadly. Got a jukebox back at home, feeling jazzy, turn it on and play it slow, like the movies with the ladies.
They so fine.
Imagine being Asian in the 50s, looking nifty, leather jacket, looking sleek, look like Presley, look so deadly. Got a jukebox back at home, feeling jazzy, turn it on and play it slow, like the movies with the ladies.
They so fine.
Sit